Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. This video is brought to you by SquareSpace, an amazing all-in-one platform to help you grow your online business. I haven't covered Underworld in quite a while, but I've always wanted to make this video, so here we are. I'm going to be looking at the story of Selene. In my opinion, one of the best vampire protagonists ever, and apparently a lot of you agree because she's won every poll I've put up with her in it. I was actually quite surprised how much she won by next to some of these other names.
We were really obviously thrilled to have her back. Always hoped that she'd come back. She's Selene, she's the heart and soul.
The first Underworld film received mixed reviews from critics but did pretty good at the box office and quickly gained a cult following. The best performing movie in the series was Underworld Awakening, bringing in $160 million at the box office. The 5-movie franchise brought in a total of $541 million, so it was fairly successful. Selene is played by Kate Beckinsale, and the first 2 Underworld films were directed by her husband at the time, Len Wiseman. Len Wiseman has been involved with all 5 movies and has helped with the story. He directed the first 2 films and produced the last 3. They met when Wiseman casted her as Selene and were married in 2004, about a year after the release of the first film. Beckinsale has appeared in 5 of the 6 Underworld films, not appearing in Rise of the Lycans because it was a prequel. Beckinsale said she took the role because Selene wasn't just a wife sitting at home. What appealed to her was that it just could have been a guy, meaning the role was written to be a hero, not the one being saved. Some argue the later movies slightly compromised her character, but hey, not many vampire werewolf franchises last this many years, so I'm grateful for every film we got. I would love to see Selene return one day, but I know that's unlikely.
She can switch into Selene like that. She can sit and giggle and like ha 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 ha, and then she has those guns up and she looks like she's gonna kill you.
Selene has a few signature weapons, including her fully automatic dual pistols. The model is a Beretta 92 FS that's been modified. She also uses shurikens that are sometimes explosive. She usually wears her leather death dealer outfit, probably because it was made for killing, but later after joining the Nordic Coven, she adopts a new look. The practical effects for Underworld are amazing. The Lycans are some of my favorite from any movie. They are foam and rubber suits worn by actors, and the Lycan head is attached on top of the actor's head. The heads are animatronic and moved by a controller. Before we fully dive into Underworld, this video is brought to you by SquareSpace. SquareSpace is a great place to start growing your online presence, and they can help you stand out with a professional looking website. Whether you're looking to create a blog or a store to sell your products, they can help. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or an expert, you can build a great looking web page with SquareSpace. They have professional looking pre-built layouts to help you get your site up and running as fast and smooth as possible. They also have built-in mobile websites, so every design that you can choose from also works great on phones and tablets. SquareSpace sites offer complete podcast support, video monetization options, and a commenting system for fans to interact with your content. They offer custom color layouts, fonts, free high-quality images through Unsplash, built-in photo editing capabilities, and video background banners. So head over to squarespace.com for a free trial, and if you set up a page and decide you like it, you can go to squarespace.com/KoganLolans and save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. I'll also have my link in the description, so you can just go down there and click it. Thanks so much to Squarespace for being a sponsor on today's video. Now we can get back to Underworld. I'm going to be going through Selene's timeline in chronological order, so that means we start in the 3rd film, Underworld, Rise of the Lycans. A lot of people found it strange to do a prequel when you're already 2 movies in, but the film was received well by fans and is a lot of people's favorite of the series. It helped lay a lot of background and deeper lore for the other films. Just before the events of Rise of the Lycans, Selene is born to a Hungarian family in the year 1383. Victor commissions Selene's father, who is a well-known architect, to build a prison for William, the first and strongest werewolf. As a child, we see Selene playing in the prison with her sister as it's being built. Selene's father completed the prison and designed 2 keys for Victor. One was grafted to his ribcage under his skin so no one could ever find it, and the other was a necklace that was worn by his daughter Sonia. You may wonder why not just kill the original werewolf instead of imprisoning him forever. The reason Victor did this is because he used werewolves as slaves and daylight guardians, and he was told by Marcus that if either of them were killed, all in their line would follow. So Victor thought that if William was killed, that all Lycans, including his slaves, would die, so this is why he decided to imprison him instead. Now we can talk about the events of Rise of the Lycans. Vampires are led by 3 vampire elders: Marcus the original vampire, Amelia, and Victor. Each elder rules for a century and then awakens the next elder before going into a kind of hibernation. This is so only one elder rules at a time and there's no clash in decision making. In Underworld Rise of the Lycans, Victor is the current ruling elder living in Castle Corvinus. He created a breed of domesticated werewolves in order to protect the vampires during the day. This occurred when a werewolf in the dungeon somehow gave birth to a humanoid baby, probably a cause of the mother being bitten while pregnant and passed the virus on to her unborn child. This is Lucian, the first Lycan. There is a difference between the original werewolves and Lycans. Werewolves, once infected, are stuck in wolf form forever and kill without reason, reduced to a feral state. Lycans, on the other hand, have greatly increased strength while in human form and can change at will and retain their human mind. Victor used Lucian and forced him to bite human victims to create more of his kind. Unfortunately, Victor's daughter Sonia fell in love with Lucian, and Victor seen the Lycans as nothing more than slaves and a mixing of the bloodlines to be unthinkable. Victor finds out his daughter has become pregnant with the first ever hybrid child, but Victor is disgusted and sentences Lucian, Sonia, and her unborn child to death. Sonia and her child are killed by exposure to sunlight, but Lucian manages to escape. Before escaping, Lucian takes Sonia's necklace with him, the necklace that is half the key to William's prison, but Lucian never found out the necklace was a key. Victor was worried that Lucian would find William's prison and try and use the key, so in order to hide the location of the prison, he killed anyone who knew about it, including Selene's family. He killed Selene's entire family, but when he saw her, she reminded him too much of the daughter he had sentenced to death and couldn't bring himself to kill her, so instead, he turned Selene into a vampire and told her that Lycans had killed her family. This is what led her to becoming a death dealer, a kind of assassin for vampires and hunter of Lycans. Selene was 19 years old when Victor turned her. Not only did Victor lie to Selene, but he rewrote vampire history and stated that Lycans started the war, but in reality it was Victor for killing Sonia and her baby. He has the official Coven historian Tanis exiled in a monastery by Selene for recording malicious lies. However, what Tanis had recorded was actually the truth. The truth of Victor not only started the war with Lycans, but is responsible for their creation. "600 years later, during the events of the first Underworld movie, we see Selene living in a mansion in Budapest. This is where the Old World Coven resides now. We learn they get their money from different businesses and a company called Ziodex that creates synthetic blood. During the events of the first Underworld, Selene's life is turned upside down. She has been living in the Old World Coven with Victor for 600 years, acting as a death dealer, thinking vampires saved her life and Lycans killed her family. She comes to find out through Craven that it was Victor, the man that was like a father to her, that killed her entire family and executed his own daughter. She also discovers that the original Lycan Lucian was in fact still alive and Craven had made a deal with him to kill the current vampire elders. And they do succeed in killing Amelia, which is a shame because I wish she was in these movies a little more. Selene also meets Michael Corvin, one of the last living descendants of Alexander Corvinus, the first immortal. He gets bitten by a Lycan, and then later Selene bites Michael, infecting him with the vampire virus to save his life. Michael gets shot by silver nitrate bullets, and because he is a Lycan, they begin to kill him very quickly. The reason that Craven shot Michael is because Craven has been trying to make Selene his wife for centuries, and when he's seen her with Michael, he shot him out of jealousy. Lucian, who has been trying to create a hybrid since Victor killed his unborn child, tells Selene to bite him to save his life. When Selene bites Michael, he begins to change into the first ever hybrid, which removes his weakness to silver. Only direct descendants of Alexander Corvinus can become hybrids. If a normal Lycan is bit by a vampire or vice versa, it will result in death. As this Lycan scientist says, it seems like the races are destined to destroy each other even at the cellular level. Michael becomes the first hybrid, and we already know how Victor feels about the blending of the species. He tells Selene he killed his daughter to protect their species, which he is forced to do again. Victor is about to kill Michael, and Selene has to choose between the man that has been like a father to her for 600 years or the man she loves. So she cuts Victor's head in half with his own sword, avenging her parents, Sonia and Lucian, all at the same time. Selene had not only discovered that Victor lied to her, but that he lied about the entire vampire-Lycan war. Selene went from being a highly respected vampire to being hated. She was now known for killing Victor, one of the most beloved elders and the second oldest vampire in history next to Marcus. But because Victor changed history, as far as everyone knew, Selene had just killed the first and oldest vampire. This is a quote from Selene. "For 6 centuries, I was a loyal soldier of the vampire clan, but I was betrayed. The war was not as it seemed. In one night, the lie that united our kind has been exposed." During the events of this movie, Victor takes Sonia's necklace back from Lucian's body, but Selene and Michael take the necklace after they defeat Victor. It's interesting to see how Michael's transformation changed from the first to second movie. In the first movie, he was basically a human with blue skin, but in Evolution, his face is closer to a full Lycan, but there is times when he appears more human. Michael sees a dead Lycan in the vampire safe house and says, "I thought they change back to human form when they die." Selene tells him that sometimes they inject Lycans with something to prevent them from reverting to human form so they can be studied. Selene's plan after killing Victor was to return to the Old World Coven and awaken Marcus, the final vampire elder, and tell him of Victor's treachery and beg for Michael's life to be spared. However, Selene was unaware some Lycan blood had dripped into Marcus's coffin and awakened him as the second ever hybrid. Craven was about to attempt killing Marcus when he burst out from his coffin and killed him. But Marcus has the ability of seeing memories through blood, and through Craven's blood learns what Victor has done, and later tells Selene he's glad Victor is dead, and that he deserved his fate many times over. After draining Craven, Marcus burned the Old World Coven to the ground, disgusted with what it had become. And as Alexander Corvinus states later, maybe Marcus realized that this was never really his coven at all. So Selene's plan was a bust, but Marcus actually finds her, and now Victor is dead. Marcus's only goal is to free his brother William, who is locked in the prison Selene's father built, and Selene is now the only living person who knows the location of the prison, and has half the key. Selene does not remember the prison at the time, but Marcus can access her blood memories, so it doesn't matter. Selene ends up having flashbacks of the necklace from her youth and tries to figure out what it's for, so she goes to Andreas Tanis, the man she had exiled on Victor's orders. But she now knows that all those lies he had recorded were actually the truth, and Tanis reveals to Selene the true reason Victor slaughtered her family, to keep William hidden from Marcus at all costs. William was much too strong, dangerous, and uncontrollable. He's the first werewolf, not Lycan. William cannot take a human form at all and is completely uncontrollable. He is the largest and strongest of all Lycans and has a unique lighter coat. His werewolf strain spreads like the plague and if not controlled, would wipe out not only vampires but humans as well. Unfortunately, Marcus is blinded by the love for his brother and doesn't see the monster he has become. Tanis sets up a meeting so Selene and Michael can speak with Marcus's father, the original immortal Alexander Corvinus. Alexander is not a werewolf or Lycan, but a pure immortal. His power is never displayed on screen, but it's said that he is the strongest of all immortals and could have easily defeated Marcus and William. He operates a group called the Cleaners. He actively tries to hide the vampire-Lycan war from humans by cleaning up their mess. Selene asks Alexander to help them against Marcus because if he frees William, it won't be good for anyone. But Alexander refuses to kill either of his sons. He knows he should, but he cannot. Marcus interrupts their conversation and seemingly kills Michael, bites Selene, gaining her memories of the prison, then fatally wounds Alexander, as well as gaining both halves of the key, one from Michael and the other from his father. Pretty efficient guy. Selene is mourning over Michael's body when the Cleaners bring Selene to Alexander. He says, "If you want to defeat my son, you need to drink my blood." Selene drinks the blood of the original immortal, and this is a big change in the series. Not only does this blood make Selene stronger than all previous elders, she is also immune to sunlight. She is the first Corvinus enhanced vampire, and now she has the ability to turn other vampires into this new kind of stronger vampire. Selene and the Cleaners leave with Michael's body to stop Marcus, and Alexander blows up his own ship to kill himself and erase any evidence inside. Alexander Corvinus was in possession of Amelia, Victor, and Lucian's body. They arrive at the location of the prison, but they are too late. Marcus has already released his brother. Fortunately for them, Marcus gets locked in the tomb for a few minutes. William easily defeats all the Cleaners and turns them into more werewolves. They are about to overpower Selene, but Michael returns to life to save her. Michael's hybrid genetics and advanced healing allowed him to literally heal himself back to life. Michael fights William and really displays the power of a hybrid when he defeats him by ripping his head in half. Then Selene, now with the power of Alexander's blood, defeats Marcus. He stabs her in the chest with his winged talon, but then she pulls it out and uses it to stab Marcus in the head and pushes him into a helicopter blade. Such an awesome moment in the series. Because of Selene's extra strength, When being stabbed to the chest, she barely even reacted. And Marcus even commented on being able to smell his father's blood in Selene. After defeating Marcus and William, Selene realizes she can walk in the sunlight and embraces Michael. Selene is now even more hated by the vampire community because she has now killed another elder, and there's now no living elders. Six months after the events of Underworld Evolution is when Underworld Awakening takes place. Humanity has become aware of vampires and Lycans and are trying to exterminate them. This is called the Purge. Selene says humans no longer kill each other. We are the enemy they've been waiting for. Escape has become our only chance of survival. Therefore, Michael and I are leaving tonight. Unfortunately, Selene and Michael are captured before they can escape the city on a boat. Michael is shot and falls into the water, and Selene jumps in after him, but they are hit by a grenade, knocking them unconscious. Selene awakens 12 years later in cryogenic suspension. Selene breaks out of the facility and finds out they are being experimented on by a company called Antigen. They are apparently trying to develop a cure for the Lycan and vampire virus. Selene begins having visions that she thinks are a connection to Michael and that he broke her out, but it turns out this connection is to her daughter. She must have become pregnant before being captured by Antigen but wasn't aware yet. She isn't sure Eve is her daughter, but once she takes her hybrid form and looks exactly like Michael, Selene knew. She also meets a vampire named David, who knows who she is but wants to help her regardless of her elder-killing reputation. He brings them back to his coven to be safe, but are followed by Lycans. One Lycan is extremely large and strong. Turns out that Antigen is secretly run by Lycans. The director, Dr. Jacob Lane, was experimenting on Eve's blood. Eve is a direct descendant of Alexander Corvinus, so her blood has special properties. The Lycans discover her blood can not only make them stronger, but removes their weaknesses to silver. This is why the Lycans want Eve back. The Lycans don't directly drink Eve's blood, but instead make a special kind of inoculation serum derived from her blood. The vampires suffer massive casualties, so the leader of the coven, Thomas, gives Eve to the Lycans to save the rest of his people. An infuriated Selene must get her back now. David was mortally wounded during the fight with the Lycans, but Selene uses her newly enhanced blood to bring David back to life, shocking his father. This making David the second Corvinus enhanced vampire and also immune to sunlight. Selene works with David and a detective Sebastian to break Eve and Michael out of Antigen. Turns out he's willing to help because his wife was a vampire, but she committed suicide when the Purge started, and he knew something weird was going on with Antigen. And it turns out that it was mostly vampires being killed during these purges, and it was actually giving the Lycans time to strengthen their numbers. Selene attacks the Antigen building when Dr. Lane is about to harvest Eve of all her genetic material and kill her. This forces the doctor to try and move Eve out of the building, but is stopped in the parking garage. Eve fights Jacob Lane, and Selene fights Jacob's son, Quint, also referred to as the Uber Lycan. He has injected himself with the serum created from Eve's blood many times, which has made him into a hulking beast, and because of this, his transformations look painful. Eve defeats Dr. Lane by ripping his throat out, and Selene defeats Quint by forcing him to change into human form and then putting a silver nitrate grenade into his stomach. The original blast from the grenade seems to have little effect on him, but once all the silver enters his blood, it causes him to swell up and explode like an allergic reaction, showing that his immunity to silver was only partial, not truly immune like a hybrid. After Jacob and Quint are defeated, Eve has a vision of her father Michael, and he's on the roof. They race up there to try and get him, but it's too late. He's gone. In the next movie, Blood War, Selene finds out that Michael was taken by Marius, a leader of a Lycan pack. I guess all Lycans by now have heard the rumors of hybrid blood and its benefits, so they came for him. Marius actually drains Michael of all his blood, killing him. Then Marius consumes the blood when he needs it and allows him to turn into a huge Lycan with a special human-like head. He's not as big as Quint Lane though. This is because Quint was taking a special serum developed from Eve's blood that was essentially pure Corvinus strain, but Marius is drinking Michael's unrefined blood, which results in an unstable transformation, possibly because of the vampire DNA in Michael's blood, because he was a hybrid. Kind of a shame that Michael gets a bit of an unceremonious death off-screen. I have to say I hate the idea that Michael was so weak that he couldn't fight off Marius, especially after the last two movies have stated how strong he is. Even if he was just in cryosleep, after Selene broke out she was able to fight off like 20 people, including Lycans. Michael got impaled, died, came back to life, and defeated the original werewolf William, but couldn't defend himself when Marius hadn't even drank any of his blood yet. so he wasn't more powerful yet like we see him later. If they had to kill off Michael, I just wish they would have had him go out like a hero or fighting taking on a bunch of Lycans or something. I feel like we never got to see him at his full power, and the same thing happens with Eve. Things just get good, and then she goes away. Because Marius has drained all of Michael's blood, he is now looking for Eve. He thinks that Eve's blood will be the key to making his transformation permanent. Also, before the events of Blood Wars, Eve and Selene had some kind of argument over her safety. Eve ends up running away from Selene and stays in hiding because of her hybrid status, making them both a target. Selene says she's lost her love, Michael, her daughter, her coven, all gone. Blood Wars begins and Selene is attacked by Lycans, but David arrives to help her. After the Lycans are defeated, she allows one Lycan to go free and bring a message to Marius. While tending to David's wounds in a safe house, the Death Dealers from the Eastern Coven arrive and give Selene a letter, saying they will forgive her for her crimes if she will train the new Death Dealers because they're worried about the Lycan War. Turns out this is all a trap to lure Selene to the Coven. Selene arrives and does a demonstration with the leader of the Death Dealers, Varga. Selene is making a fool of him until he pulls out a knife and cuts Selene. The knife was poisoned with nightshade, a special poison that affects vampires. Because Selene is extremely strong, it only causes pain and paralysis, but Varga states that any other vampire would surely die. It turns out Samira wanted Selene's blood to turn herself into a stronger vampire to take over the Coven. She also wants to kill Selene because Victor was her sire as well, and was like a father to her until Selene came around. Then Samira was sent away, so she might dislike Selene for taking her place as Victor's favorite. Varga kills all the Death Dealer recruits and frames Selene for their deaths. Samira takes Selene's body to be drained of blood, but luckily David and Thomas rescue her before she died and were able to escape in the daylight because they are Corvinus enhanced vampires. Thomas died in order to help them escape, and David takes Selene to the secretive Nordic Coven, also known as Vardor. This coven is not governed by the council and is considered only a legend to most vampires. The vampires of the Nordic Coven prefer peace and to stay out of the wars with Lycans and humans. While hiding in the Nordic Coven, Selene witnesses a vampire named Lena performing a special ritual. She says it takes them to the sacred world that grants a vampire new knowledge and abilities. Shortly after, they are attacked by Marius and his Lycans. Marius succeeds in defeating Selene and has his vampire sidekick feed from Selene to get her blood memories and find Eve. But that's when they discover that not even Selene knows where Eve is, and their search might be hopeless. Selene, being gravely injured, slips herself under the ice to be safe, or maybe to slow her death in the cold water. After Selene's body is retrieved from the lake, Leonard performs the special ritual in the Undercroft. When Selene awakes, she is fully healed, stronger than ever, and possesses a new special ability. Up until this point, the vampire species have been more biological, being centered around the strength of their virus, but these extra abilities gained after the special ritual are definitely more supernatural. After undergoing this process, you can also apparently read other souls. I wonder if it's possible for a Lycan to undergo a similar process and also gain new abilities. Marius is about to attack the Eastern Coven, so Selene brings the Nordic Coven with her to help against the Lycans. Selene's Nordic Coven look with the coat and the fur is one of her best for sure. When Selene arrives at the Eastern Coven, she uses her new ability to move extremely fast and kill multiple Lycans in what seems like the blink of an eye. So this new ability that she learned was some kind of super speed. The vampires and Lycans begin to fight, and I really like the scene where David and Marius do the yell at each other and they force all the bullets back out of their bodies. Very cool. David ends up fighting Samira and wins when she is distracted by the fact that she can now walk in the sun after drinking Selene's blood. Selene fights Marius again, and he's still hard to defeat. A drop of Marius' blood lands in Selene's mouth, and through his blood memories she sees Michael had met Marius. Selene cuts him with a knife to taste more of his blood, and sees that he did in fact kill Michael. Selene is almost defeated by Marius while grieving for Michael, because she didn't know that he was dead until right now. But then she remembers her daughter and goes full beast mode and uses her advanced speed to go around behind him and rips out his spine. David appears with the severed head of Marius and tells the Lycans to leave without a fight, and they do. Turns out David was actually the secret son of the vampire elder Amelia, which makes him an automatic heir to be an elder. Lena from the Nordic Coven is made an elder, and lastly, Selene is forgiven by the council and named an elder as well. From an outcast to one of the 3 chosen elders. From hunted to the highest honor a vampire could receive. An elder is equivalent to a king or queen of vampires, the highest authority, and for the first time in many centuries, the vampire and Lycan war seems to be at an end. The final scene of the movie, we see Selene is residing at the Nordic Coven, and Eve is shown returning to her. Now that Marius is gone and Selene has been forgiven by the council, they can be together, and Selene has found a reason to go on without Michael. That's my video on the timeline of Selene. I didn't go over every little detail of the movies. I tried to stick to Selene's story because sometimes individual stories get looked over with so many things going on. Still one of the best vampire and werewolf movie series ever, and I think Kate Beckinsale is one of the best female action leads ever. If you're interested in more Underworld lore, I have a full video on Selene's daughter Eve, all the different species, and some other characters. If you have any other movies or TV shows you'd like me to cover, please leave them in the comments below, as I always read through them. If you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like, and if you haven't, maybe subscribe. I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.